Andrew Tate versus Brittany Renner. Two of the most polarizing people in a conversation. We're going to see what happens.
Speaking of marriage, I wanted to know, do you think we're in a post-marriage society?
The problem is that there's zero advantage to marriage in the Western world for a man, because this new idea of new age feminism just basically destroys all men in the idea, in the event of her leaving. And it's very common that women leave. If a woman marries a man and it goes wrong, she has emotional heartbreak, fine. But if a man marries a woman and it goes wrong, he has emotional heartbreak. Plus, everything he has ever worked for is ripped out from underneath him, and he has to give that chick money forever.
The reality is, if I would have gotten married and did everything right and did everything the moral way, right? Guess what? All I would have on top of what I'm going through with child support is alimony. So I'm still in the courts fighting, whether I'm married or whether I'm not. So that I get what you're saying, because hey, you at least get the commitment to, maybe back up that he's going to be there, but it doesn't ensure anything.
Generally speaking, Andrew Tate, super controversial guy. There's some things he says that I definitely don't agree with. There's some things he says that I kind of agree with. I'm like, all right, he's right. But overall, definitely extreme figure, I'll say the least. So what's your opinion on what they're saying?
Tate is saying that men are essentially terrified to get married. I don't think that men are afraid of marriage itself.
You ready? Yeah, I'm ready.
As in deciding to come together with a woman, sign a contract, and to agree to be with that person till death do them part, to raise kids together, to get the benefits that do come with being married, such as tax benefits, for example. I don't think that men are necessarily afraid of marriage in that sense. I think men are afraid of what could happen if the marriage doesn't work, which obviously is divorce.
I know men who have gotten really over in divorce, where their wife hired a killer lawyer. I had a friend whose ex-wife, dragged it out on purpose. I was trying to tell him to get divorced. And I said, just give her half, man. You'll make more money. He goes, it's not half. He goes, it's 2/3. He goes, fucking lawyers take 1/3. It's a goddamn scam. He had to pay for her lawyer. He had to pay for his lawyer. And then he had to pay for all of the times that she decided to change the goalposts and renegotiate. Her goal was to try to drain him financially. He was slowly going crazy, and I was watching my friend go crazy, and it took several years for it to be completely resolved. He's been divorced for 12 years now, and he still pays her.
Jesus.
They didn't have a child, and he has a family now. He's married with children now. He still pays this person.
Why are they afraid of that? Because the way the laws are written now do not favor men. If you're a man and you get married and you get divorced, it's highly likely that even if you and your spouse earn the same amount of money, you still may end up having to pay, in this case, your wife alimony. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes the woman earns less because, let's say, she decides, or they both decide that she's going to stay home. Sometimes the man stays home, but most of the time it's the woman that stays home. And so say she's out the job market for 10 years or so. And then the marriage just gets on the rocks and they get divorced. In that situation, I know it's a bit different because maybe she's been out of the job market for 10 to 15 years. She hasn't built her skills up. She's been raising the kids. In that case, I can understand something like alimony because you have a duty now to help her get back on her feet.
That makes sense. Like, hey, this person is taking care of the children. They're your children. You guys had these children together. You have to contribute to the money that it costs to raise a child. 100%. I get it. What I don't get is alimony. I just don't get it. We're not together anymore. Know how we were before we were together and you didn't have any money, and then you met me and now I have money, and then you got used to having money? Well, you're going to have to get used to not having money because now you don't have any money because now we're not together anymore.
Or like a year maybe. You know what I mean? Like
maybe.
Let her take some time to get back on her feet.
Right.
Just to summarize it all, I think that it's mostly the fear of losing a lot of the stuff, like Tate said, in divorce that men are afraid of.
I think that's definitely a valuable point. I think when a man looks at it, like a younger man looks at marriage, because I know for me in particular, I have no problem with marriage as an institution or people getting married. It's just the fact that leaving the marriage, the exit, divorce, is so much more hard than anything else. And some people just don't come back after they make an exit, I think is the problem. And I think that because statistics actually show that women file, and like I said, this is not gender war or anything like that, that women file more than men.
Trend right now, divorces are being initiated by women. A new study of more than 2,200 couples found women were the ones who initiate the divorce 69% of the time. That's compared to just 31% of divorces initiated by men.
That to a man, and I'm looking at it, if you're a regular dude and you're looking at the numbers, you're like, well, why would I do this? I think most men don't want to naturally be against marriage, because I think it's natural for someone to want to be with someone for a long period of time. I just think that because today we don't really play by how past generations and past years used to do things, and that a lot of things that we're doing is just completely new.
Did this surprise you at all?
Not really. One of the reasons it's happened is because women actually can. In your parents' generation, my parents' generation, women were often home and the husband provided the income. But
Right.
now with two people working, it's women can actually financially say, if I'm not happy in this relationship, I can get out. I can depend on myself.
That, I mean, it's shaky, it's shaky territory. I have two grandfathers, right? I have one grandfather that lived the traditional life where he got married to one woman, stayed with her the entire time. He died, and he had a good life.
What do you think your secrets to getting to almost 70 years of marriage are?
Teamwork, and I think you have to continually be interested in different things. You can't stay stagnant, and you have to change as the world changes too. You can't.
And have faith in one another, too.
Right.
And then I have another grandpa who died as a bachelor. He spent his couple years being kind of wild. Well, I'm not going to say kind of wild, but, he just didn't do the traditional thing, right? But he also died pretty happy, too, right? So I've kind of seen it, like, both ways and how it can end up. And I don't have anything against marriage. I'm against marriage with the state. I'm against a third party stepping in. The way that I would have marriage, if I were to get married, would definitely just be strictly through the church. Marriage to me is a bond between you, your wife, and God. That's my perspective. What you guys say about it?
There's something now called cohabitation agreements. So now based on an article I read recently, they're talking about how a lot of millennials, especially older millennials, are now foregoing marriage and they're going into what are called cohabitation agreements.
It'd be simpler in England to get divorced than in
England,
America.
maybe.
She'll
Maybe
take
that's what
your
I'm
money,
saying.
boys.
In
They'll
England,
take your money. Don't get married. Have a parental partnership. Love your woman. Pay whatever you need to pay for your kids.
I think that's going to be more of the way things are going in the future as opposed to actual marriage. And I think also people are just going to now start to live together as if they're married. Just live together, raise children together without actually being married and bringing the state into it, like you mentioned before. And that's going to be a big trend.